Naisip po namin, marami na pong programa at polisiya na naipatupad ang mga nagdaang administrasyon para masolusyonan ang problema natin sa mga illegal settlers. Pero hindi po natin tumalutas-lutas dahil patuloy po silang bumabalik sa mga dati nilang tirahan. So, sir, what is your plan of action to solve this once and for all?
Unang-una, dalawang bagay yan. Dahil sa vulnerability ng kanilang tinitirahan, kung talagang hazard sa kanilang buhay, lalong-lalo na sa mga anak nila na walang kapangyarihan gumawa ng desisyon, kailangan talaga i-relocate natin. Kasi nga, ang patuloy na paninirahan nila sa mga lugar na yon, katulad nun sa tabi ng estero, no, sa Manggahan Floodway, it's really a clear and present danger to life. Knowing that naman, what do you do when you relocate? Kung wala naman pagkakataon doon, babalik talaga at babalik. Katulad nga ng aking karanasan na nasabi sa akin, merong balik probinsya program ang gobyerno natin kung saan binabayaran ang isang pamilya ng 3 buwan ng minimum wage para lang umuwi sa probinsya. Pero pagdating sa barko, minsan nakalayag na yung barko, lulundag yung iba. Babalik din. So you have really to have opportunities for them. Number 1, to stop migration. And number 2, for those relocated to stay. You want to clear certain areas, make the private sector involved, like the public-private sector committee that was formed after Undoy. The private sector offered na pag-relocate, magtatayo kami ng labor-intensive na mga negosyo. As far as a president, what he can do is to have good governance to attract not only investments in the private sector, but also to attract some interest in the country.
Okay, representing Ateneo in her blue outfit, we have here Andrea.
My question will be about the undernourishment that our children are receiving or are experiencing. What will you do about it po? And second, in connection, what would be your approach to agrarian reform, especially that it will help our farmers very much?
Right. For the first question, yung undernourishment, I think we should really reinforce the DSWD. They're one of the most efficient organizations of the government. I've had experience working with them under then Secretary Yspeak. I have nothing but high praises for them. Especially their outreach and field workers. Natatarget na nila talaga slowly ang talagang poorest of the poor na mga pamilya. At because of the Pantawid Pamilya ng Pangulo program, slowly natutugunan nito to the tune of 700,000 families. But they want to expand the program to 1 million. And Congress wants to pass a law institutionalizing it, but probably the best way really will just be to back up the DSWD with adequate resources. Now, the street children undernourishment is also a function of their parents giving them the required nourishment. You have to make sure that the parents do, with adequate supervision by the DSWD and the MSWDOs. That's the immediate solution. But the long-term solution is to capacitate the parents to have some form of livelihood. That's a long-term solution, and that's a whole story altogether. Now, agrarian reform. We want to make it work. But the way it's going, you do not have high success rates. There are very successful agrarian reform communities, and there are also stories of farmers being recipients of land and being in debt. And I think the outstanding figure from government is about 42 billion pesos in debt, actually, with no chance of repayment or little chance for repayment. So let's concentrate first on what is there. We cannot afford to make those beneficiaries that have received land fail. We have to make them a success. Then you have to move on. What's the end state of agrarian reform? That's food security for your country. Food security and emancipation of people, of the farmers, or the peasants. You must balance the policy insofar as achieving food security first. And second, you have to realize what is the logical course of events once a farmer is emancipated.
Okay, from our farmers, we now turn to the Mga batang namamalimos with Israel from UP's question.
Isa po sa lumalalang suliranin ng bansa sa ngayon ay ang patuloy na pagdami ng mga kabataang namamalimos sa daan, whether kumakatok sa pinto ng sasakyan o kaya sumasakay na lang bigla sa jeep, nagpupunas ng sapatos at kung ano-ano pang mga gawain. Minsan nga po sa murang edad ng mga 3 taon, exposed na sila sa ganitong buhay. Paano nyo po kaya sila matutulungan at ano po yung dapat gawin sa kanila?
Sila ay biktima ng kanilang mga magulang siguro or biktima na ng sindikato kung walang magulang, no? So, dapat tugunan talaga yung sitwasyon, hindi ng bata kasi yan ay effect. But yung cause is a parent that does not take care of the child or a parentless child that is being used by a criminal syndicate. Yan ang dapat tugunan. Madali lang naman i-capacitate, which the DSWD, if it can, is doing na kukup-kupin ng bata, no? Pero sometimes pag may non-consenting parent, ang hirap na magtanggal ng parental authority kasi hahabla mo pa sa korte, no? So at times ang problema ay sa magulang. So what you should do is to continue na naman, eto na naman yung conditional cash transfer program para hindi proscription but incentive ang ibibigay sa magulang. O bibigyan kita ng cash transfer, pantawid mo, pero wag mo naman papalimusin yung bata. Dali mo naman sa eskwelahan. Bigyan mo naman ng gatas araw-araw. I think incentivizing that kind of behavior is the best way of addressing the problem.
Ito naman sa ating pagbabalik. Lastly, sino si Gibo as a public servant? Ano kanya mga nagawa para sa bayan at para sa mga kabataan? Yan sa pagbabalik ng Yspeak. Welcome back to Speak. We are just about wrapping up our interview with Gibo Teodoro. Once again, thank you so much for coming to Yspeak. Thank you, sir. Ano ba most important issues, feeling ko, para sa mga kabataan ngayon? A lot of people also sent this question through Twitter about corruption. Okay, Yspeak got to interview June Lozada before, and he said it's really a hard issue to deal with corruption kasi it's on every possible level. Parang it's not just in this part, it's not just in this sector. How would you best attack the problem of corruption?
You know, just like bad behavior, it's also multi-sectoral. In a school, sometimes you find anomalies not only with students but with faculty and administration too. It's the same in government. Now, how do you deal with that? It will take some time to minimize it because you have to introduce, once again, I keep on repeating the word, incentive-based behavior. Incentives, incentives, incentives. How can you expect somebody with the power to rule over, let's say, contracts amounting to hundreds of millions and you get paid only X amount? The temptation is big. And the first one to bite to temptation was Adam. The first ones were Adam and Eve. You know, we're no different. You know. It takes a lot of fortitude sometimes, particularly in the Philippines, where we don't seem to agree with the notion that the world, as it progresses, gets more materialistic. It does. It's a fact of life. You have to deal with that reality. Other countries like Singapore really say, okay, we'll pay you good salaries so that you reduce the amount of temptation. Why? Because if he loses a job, loses a good living. And that's a hard trade-off to make. While here, we keep on prohibiting, just prohibiting, that's bad, don't do it. Doesn't work that way.